Welcome back to Shamwariyemwanasikana broadcast. This is Sangwadzispiwe Kachidza Mapfumo. I am back. Last week we had a fantastic program, and today I have another ordinary person who is doing extraordinary work in our communities. And today's guest is my favorite person, Ekenia Chifamba. She's been here before talking to us about the work that she's doing in communities and supporting the girl child, including women, and many programs that they're doing out there. And welcome, Ekenia, to Shamwariyemwanasikana.
Hello, Sankwadzi, and thank you for having me on your show. It's always a pleasure to be part of your show. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And first and foremost, I would like to congratulate you for winning the best communicator of the year for Shamwariyemwanasikana, because you're doing amazing work. I have invited you because I wanted to say that in public, and thank you very much for accepting to that award. You deserve it.
Thank you so much, Spiwe. I think we're really elated, esteemed Shamwariyemwanasikana. We've put in a lot of work towards visibility of the work that we are doing as Shamwariyemwanasikana. So yes, it was not a surprise, but we felt that there's so many organizations doing amazing work out there, but being chosen to
Yeah.
be the ones being outstanding, it's
Mhm.
always amazing. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I like it when girl people, girl children, and who grow up to be adults and occupying space if need be. Well done. Well done. Today, I've called you because I want us to talk about 16 Days of Activism. It's a global movement, really, which has gained traction over the years, and it's pretty much up your aisle because of the work that you do, working with girl child and working with women's support in communities. So I want you to talk to me or talk to us about 16 Days of Activism, what it's all about. I know it's a global thing, but break it down for us and tell us what it's all about and what you are doing in Zimbabwe to support that.
So, yes, we are joining the world in commemorating 16 days of activism against gender based violence. And here in Zimbabwe, we are looking at the theme Unite, Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls. We are looking at the gains and the wins and also the losses and where the gaps are with regards to gender-based violence here in Zimbabwe. We know there's a lot that has been done by the government, communities, churches, and also like-minded colleagues within the CSO sector to raise awareness against gender-based violence, to provide services, also policies that have been enacted by the government, but we still feel there is a lot that needs to be done. So as we commemorate the 16 days of activism, we are reminded that it's not just about the 16 days. It For us, it's a 365-day challenge where we all need to come together, leaving no one behind, to play a role, a critical role that is in making sure that we put an end to this scourge.
I like your T-shirt. I like your T-shirt. Don't just stand by, stand up. And I think, again, what you are talking about is people see this every day. We see gender-based violence every day as we go Makombi, as we move around in our neighbors, and we see that all the time. And you mentioned it to me earlier on that this topic does not only affect one group; it's across the board. It doesn't care. We're not talking of age. Yeah, we're not talking of education or careers, professions, or whatever. What is it looking like when you look at what's happening in Zimbabwe? Where are we, and what are you seeing?
So, Spirit, like I said earlier on, there's a lot that has been done to actually address the issue of gender-based violence here in Zimbabwe. But then we realize that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done because statistics continue to be on the increase. Of course, we do have issues of the current economic situation that has not spared women and girls. They continue to be at the receiving end because we see a lot of domestic violence cases that are being reported to different police posts, but also stories that have been shared on different media platforms where we see couples fighting over petty issues, money issues, food issues. Couples, I'll give you an example of a story that just made headlines 2 days ago of a man who actually killed his girlfriend's son because she had said no. Most likely he was providing for her. But then when she decided to move on, he was not comfortable with it. We continue to see young girls who are victims of child marriage, families that still believe that it is okay in a home or family set up to actually curb the issue of poverty by marrying off young girls as young as 15 or 14. And a lot of people argue to say, "Zvichiri kuitika here ende zviri kuitika kupi?" Yes, it is happening right here in Zimbabwe, and surprisingly, even in the big cities as well. We are seeing young girls who are losing their lives giving birth at shrines, young girls who are losing their young children, being burdened with the role of motherhood at a tender age, and thus bringing up issues of mental health. We are also seeing places of worship, spiritual places where we are supposed to get help and support, where girls continue to be taken advantage of. Vanhu vachiri kurotswa pamweya spiwe. And we continue to see elders within churches who are actually hiding these things under the carpet to say we should always pray about it, we should talk about it, we should address it in a spiritual way. And yet we know it continues to be a problem. So we are still battling with issues of gender based violence. And we know of men as well who are also victims, because for men it's even worse because it's difficult to come out in the open. The way they were socialized, our culture, it does not allow for men to openly talk about these issues. And we've seen statistics also going up of men who are committing suicide. And
Yeah.
we are asking ourselves, what is it that can be done? Because, of course, there are policies, but if they are not properly implemented, properly monitored, if we do not have the right people who continue to document the progress and see where the gaps are, then we'll have a challenge. Of course, the policies are there, but what are the communities doing about these issues? Because this conversation starts in the home setup. Where does your child spend most of their time? Who are their friends? What kind of content do they watch online? Even if it's not your biological child, if you are a guardian, are you also looking out for your sister's child that you're staying with? Because perpetrators are close family members, the uncles, the brothers, the step brothers, and surprisingly, fathers as well, who are biological fathers. It's sad to know that these things are happening. So we should always make sure that it starts from the home setup, it goes to the school, because even teachers have that responsibility as well. Going to the churches, that we continue to cry for and say, can they be regulated? The moment they are regulated, then we stop having these issues. Then we go up to the policies.
In a few minutes, I can tell. I mean, the passion, Yako, it just comes out, right? We have unpacked well. We have touched a lot of things. I mean, this is a lot of stuff. First and foremost, what is gender-based violence? And a lot of times, people just think somebody who punches you like that, that's it. Or a lot of times people just look at it as babana mai varikurwa, but there's more to it, like what you explained in the girl child who is being married off, who is delivering and taking on the role of a mother at 12 instead of being a child. All that is abuse of these kids. And boy children as well being abused, and we talk about children being married off. All those are in that package of what you talked about gender-based violence. And also you pointed out to something which is very, very important: men who are going through you know this violence from partners. It could be from a partner, it could be just from families, and end up killing themselves. Mental health on the increase. We're talking of mental health because of kids using substance use and all that stuff, but all these adds up to some of these community issues that need to be looked at. And who is going to do that? And you are coming up, what you're doing is part of which way forward, because we can talk about it till the cows come home, but until and unless policy there are policies that are going to be implemented and make a change in the communities, community members, participating, church, faith groups, families, and all those kind of things. I know, like as I said, it's just a whole bunch of stuff we are talking about here, and we only have half an hour to do that. And but you know what, we'll do the best we can. I initially you said there is need for education, educating these people where to go get resources, what is gender-based violence, and how can we stop it, and how do we see it in our midst, how can we slow it down or stop it completely, and just awareness. You have come up with a couple of activities that during these 16 days of gender-based violence, you have come up with, I think it's called the Combi Diaries, the Borehole Diaries, the Zumba Diaries. That I would like to think these are platforms that you are using to raise awareness in communities. The EU has supported you with that. Talk to me about that, because I think this is interesting, because you cannot talk about it on Kanwe Wanyai only. It's not everybody who comes there, but we have to take these programs to where the people are. And where are the people? They are in combis. Where are the people? Borehole Diaries. Talk to me about that. This is very interesting.
Okay, so I want to partly answer what you had asked prior to
Mhm,
this question, Spew, about GBV. So
mhm,
GBV is violence that is perpetrated towards women, girls, or even men, and it comes in different facets. It can be economic abuse, it can
mhm,
be physical, it can be social, it can be sexual
mhm,
abuse, it can be emotional
mhm,
abuse as well. It can
mhm,
even be verbal abuse. So it comes in different facets. But a lot also that we have been doing, like you said, being supported by Team Europe to also curb GBV during the 16 days of activism. So we are focusing mainly on the component of awareness raising.
mhm,
So we have done Zumba in Chitungwiza. We brought Zumba to Chitungwiza. And Zumba is usually associated with the elite. We usually see it happening on the other side of Samora, like they usually call it. But we
Northern
decided um,
suburbs.
yeah, so we decided to bring Zumba to Chitungwiza as a way of engaging the communities. Whilst we are exercising, we are keeping fit, we are interacting, we are also raising awareness on gender-based violence through dance and music. And we included our young girls, the boys, the men as well, because we're always referring to them as the perpetrators. But this time we decided to bring them to the table, to the conversation, to say, is it possible for you guys to change your attitudes, your behaviors, so that at the end of the day, we create equal spaces and opportunities, not
Mhm,
only for the girl child, but also even for the boys as well. And then we
mhm,
did Combi Diaries. Combi Diaries is mainly focusing on GBV that is taking place at the designated bus terminuses in
mhm,
Harare. So 4th Street, Copacabana, Charge Office, and others. We were trying to bring the Windies, the combi drivers to the conversation to say it's actually a violation of women's and girls' rights to body shame them when they are boarding
mhm,
combis or buses, to call them names, and also for some, sadly, they have been violated verbally. they have been violated sexually, and some have had men who had the pleasure of touching their behind or touching their boobs whilst trying to get onto the combis or board the buses. So we're trying to raise awareness to say, as men, they can actually be agents of change. They can actually be game changers,
Mm-hmm.
where women, men, boys, adults board these combis to actually put an end to gender-based violence.
So
And
they
then we
don't
did,
stand by, but they should stand up. They should not just
oh
stand by,
yes,
see somebody being molested or somebody being done like that, but
that's
participate
so
as head. We don't do that, right?
yeah, that's
So
so
how
so
do you
true.
do that? How do you do that when you go to Copacabana there and the place is packed with people all the time? There you are from Shamwariyemwanasikana or a representative of this movement, you know, the 16 days of activity. What are you doing? Because I don't know if you just stand there and say, hey guys, don't, you know, we're here to talk about tell me how that looks like.
So, oh yeah. So we decided to bring music to the people. It's more of a road show. It's not just Shamwari alone. We partnered with Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Youth, the Gender Commission, and also VFU Police. So music, dance, and then we start engaging them to say, let's have a conversation. What is the situation been like at public bus terminuses? Women were sharing their experiences, men were sharing their experiences as well. And then also, that's when we realized there are also men whose rights are being violated, not only at these public drop off and pickup zones, but also even at home, but are afraid to speak out and talk about it. But also realizing there are men who are already doing the work at these designated pick up and drop off zones and raising awareness. So it's a conversation that we have, and also asking questions where we make them win prizes because it will be back to school soon. So trying to engage them, giving them stationery, school stationery, giving them t-shirts, giving them caps, and also combi stickers that we also brought to them to say the conversation, remember we said, is not about just the 16 days. It's supposed to go on for 365 days. So the
Mhm.
stickers will always remind them to say we still have a lot of work to do. And then with the Boer diaries, it's GBV at public water collecting points. There's a lot of violation of women's rights happening, Spiwe, at these public water collecting points, because usually the Boer marshals are men. And we've had support from previous sponsors, Oxfam, GIZ, who have supported us to actually train the Boer marshals to be change makers, to train the community, the women and the girls to stand up and speak out. And also a multi-stakeholder approach where we continuously go to the Boers with music, dancing, and also giving them t-shirts, caps, which are branded with a message, having conversations on how we can create safe spaces, even at public water collecting points as well.
I was going to say this just came up my while we're talking about it, that you know it's public spaces like those borehole collecting points, water collecting points. Why would they put marshals who are men when most of the people who use that place, who come to get water, are girl child and women? Why is that? Is that a policy thing that might need to be looked into? Because I'm
So
sure
this is
majority
not
of them.
Yeah, so this is there is no policy that it should be a man or a woman, but when these balls are put in place, it's usually the men who excuse me who actually take up the role of being a ball marshal because
Mhm.
of to me, I kind of feel it's because of their biological makeup. Men always have a tendency of saying because of our physique, because of their biological makeup, they feel they are much stronger. They feel also they have more power over women. But for us, we always feel that that aspect of positive masculinities should be
Mhm.
utilized the other way around. So they tend to appoint themselves at these public water collecting points. So that's the reason why we have more of these balls being manned by men themselves. So at the end of the day, a lot of
Yeah.
abuse also takes place: physical, verbal, emotional, all forms
Mm.
of abuse. But
Paninya,
we are then working. Mhm. So we are
Paninya,
then working.
it's,
Mhm.
these marshals, whatever. That's something
Yes.
that needs to be looked at and addressed.
So
And women
yeah.
are
So
getting more powerful.
mhm.
They should urge to be taking those roles as the marshals, the pap, family unit, and the strength of women.
Mhm.
Paninya.
Mhm. So what we have also been doing is to capacitate the women and girls to also
Mhm.
take up the positions of being bow marshals within the
Mhm.
trainings that we have done, for them to speak up and speak out, open up and report some of these cases. But also, to working with the councils to say, is it possible to have like local bylaws that can actually control these bows? Because there have been a number of cases that have been reported where a lot of women suffer in silence at
Mhm.
public water collecting points, because there's also a component of unpaid care work. The burden usually falls with women. They are the ones who spend hours at the public water collecting points. They are the ones who miss lessons and not go to school whilst they are fetching water. And they're the ones who fall into trouble when they go back home. Waswera wakamira pamutsetse wekuchera mvura, uchada
Eh.
kubika, uchada kuaina manheru, uchapisa sheti yemunhu, munhu achakurova, not also acknowledging the work that has been done throughout the whole day.
And sexual abuse as well. The person with power that ina mai and that mashure my ningi dem those kind of things, imbalances in things like family dynamics and all these things. I think that issue is something that you should look at really seriously. Mhm.
Yeah, that's so true, Spio. I don't know if you heard about the story that made headlines about Red Wekumabvuku, who actually impregnated a number of women and girls in that area who
Mhm.
would come and sought for favors to fetch water. And it was
Yes,
discovered that it was not just an ordinary favor. He would actually sexually abuse them,
I know.
all in the name of them wanting to fetch water earlier than anybody else.
You see power now is sometimes how it really gets into people, and we're talking of trying to end this gender-based violence, and those are the little nuggets that build up to the big problem that we have of women being abused. And yeah, and really you're doing amazing work, and the more you talk about it, the more people are conscious of it, and the more we talk about changes in the way these some of these things are going in communities. It's very important because that's the only way change can come. That's the only way you
That's
can
so
have it. Yeah. But you talked about this being across the board. Um, are you seeing that also in maybe career people? I know the rich, the poor, the middle, the anybody, gender-based violence is there. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes it's behind the doors. What are you seeing?
So GPV happens even within the corporate spaces. I know we have been seeing various media platforms being awash with cases of gender-based violence that are also taking place in places of work, where it's usually difficult for most women to come out in the open and also report cases of sexual abuse. Like we were saying, it's usually the biological makeup, but also an issue of power
Mhm.
dynamics that are not handled properly. And in most cases, they are seniors at work,
Mhm.
usually male counterparts.
Mhm.
So you realize that it becomes difficult for a woman to get a promotion. It becomes difficult for a woman if you intend to move departments. It
Mhm.
becomes difficult for some men as well, who are also in junior positions, who also face such challenges. We cannot ignore that. But we know that a greater number is that
Mhm.
of women who are facing violation of their rights
Mhm.
within the workplace. I know through the Spotlight Initiative, which is supported by EU, ILO actually went out of their way to bring in corporates and have a conversation around sexual harassment at the workplace. And now
Mhm.
there's a whole policy that is being acknowledged within all institutions to say it's a crime. Even language that is used
Mhm.
sometimes at the workplace by some male counterparts, it can actually be a violation of one's rights. How they comment about the way women dress, how they comment about their biological makeup, which is
Mhm.
not proper. So we might actually be limiting it to sexual, we might actually be limiting it to physical, but also things that we may take for granted that include the comments and everything else.
Yeah, but like we're saying, it's both gender. It could be male or female, but I think there's a disproportionate representation of this in with women and
Yeah.
girl child. They're the ones who suffer most with this. However, we're not saying we should not look into the issue of males who are going through um, uh, really torture because, but then it's stigmatized for men to come up and talk. I'm having problems with my boss. I mean, you know what? I mean, she's inviting me to such and sexual abuse. They just yeah, nay, that kind of this language. And this is a person who is suffering. What do I do, people? I'm a married person. What do I do? And there are so many cases that I also heard of men who are going through, you know, uh, some abuse of some sort, and women really beating up their husbands. But you can't talk because men are not there. That's not how we are socialized. Men are supposed um, to big up and just stand up for themselves, right? But with young girls, you said something that really touched me. I can't remember, it was while we were recording or was it before, of young women who are abused by partners. How can we even get there? How did we even get there? A person who is not even not that the one who's married to you or who um is your parents can abuse you, but somebody who is just a man in your life abusing you, killing your own child. How is this working out when you go talk to young people?
So we've realized that with conversations that we have with our girls through our Dandaro platforms, we realize the shift in terms of dynamics of how our young girls are developing. Because back then we growing up would know that people would start having relationships when they would turn 18 and above.
Mhm.
But then these days, these young girls are beginning to date at a very tender age. And we've been receiving cases where our young girls are actually physically abused by their boyfriends, same age, sadly, for some of them, and some who tend to have relationships with older men. And
Mhm.
then we do have scenarios where we have women who are single, who actually tend to date married men in most instances, who then take up the role of being fathers or father figures in those home setups, where they actually end up taking advantage of not only these women because they are providing for them, but also taking advantage of even the kids. I
Mhm.
have had a case which I attended to where this guy ended up sexually abusing the daughter, and it became difficult for this woman to actually go and report him, thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? And yet, these are the conversations that we need to continuously have,
Mhm.
even in the places of worship. Why won't we teach women to actually not depend on these men for survival? You can be a single mother, but you can actually take care of your children. They can still go to school, they
Mhm.
can still live their lives free of abuse without anyone interfering in your peace, because you are standing in the gap as the mother. You can be in a relationship and be happy, without somebody else determining your pace of happiness.
Mhm.
Because at times, I think it's the way we are socialized. As women, we are always advised, we always reminded of how we should always make the other gender happy. We
Mhm.
are there to provide entertainment. We are there to provide support. But who is supposed to do that for us? Nobody does that. Even if you look at the bridal showers that are done, Spirit, you see that content mostly focuses on women, women, women. But
Uh-huh.
when the guys do their bachelor's parties, they don't even focus on that. Why
Oh.
won't we have balanced conversations that promote gender equality, that promote peace, that promote safety, that promote oneness. Because, like I was saying, it's not a race. We only want equal spaces and opportunities, and what works best for both genders.
I tell you, we could talk on and on and on. It's a topic which touches you and it touches me. And then while we're at there, we just like winding up our conversation. And you know what? While we're at it, I'd like to, those who are watching, those who haven't watched China, the story of a very strong girl on Netflix. I was almost in tears with joy. But again, there is an element of abuse there. Uncle, this, and then a child gets raped. But anyway, that's for another day. I will have to invite the producer of China to come here and talk to us. But Ekenia, continue the work we are doing. We could never thank you enough for raising awareness, the work that you're doing to raise awareness on issues affecting girl child and women in general. And during these days of 16 days of activism, continue doing the work you're doing and don't stop. Keep shining. Thank you so much. I will invite you again for another segment of Kanoiwanya broadcast. Thank you so much. And everybody who's following us, please like and share and subscribe so that we can increase the viewership on our program. I like to say good night to those who are in Zimbabwe and good afternoon to people in Canada.